Inside Blitz Week 18 NFL with Ted Sobel and Ron. How's it going, guys?
Good. Happy New Year, guys. Missed you the last few weeks. What a way to end the season. So many important games. It's great. Isn't this the way it's supposed to be?
I expect different.
One of the best Week 18s we've seen in a while with so many playoff implications. The number one seeds in both conferences are decided, but everything else is kind of up in the air.
Yeah. What is it? Every one but 4 games means something, and and that means a lot. You know, I always love the way the NFL sets it up, where they have the divisional matchups. Specifically, it tends to be key ones for the final week, and it doesn't always work out that way, of course, but it looks like it's going to be a great weekend, and we got a nice doubleheader on Saturday, so it's a good way to start things. The first game of the week is Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Again, that means nothing to Baltimore, but how about picking up Dalvin Cook and what that means to them in the postseason? I thought it was between them and Buffalo where he could make a huge difference, specifically in weather situations.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they were kind of ridiculing him because he was only 1,000 yards short of his performance bonus kicking in if he would have stuck around. So he certainly didn't meet expectations. I think his longest run from scrimmage was 13 yards all season long. So,
yeah, and a wonderful offense too, right? I think he just was thrilled to get the hell out of there. The bottom line with him is he is fresh. How many running backs are fresh this time of the year?
The other good news is that he gets 2.5 weeks to acclimate with the team behind the offensive line and so on. He's not rushed into action where he signed on a Wednesday and playing on a Sunday. And I think Baltimore is a better fit for him. So we'll see what happens.
In the meantime, Lamar is sitting out for his 27th birthday on Sunday. So he'll be eating cake on the sidelines and doesn't really care what the hell happens with his team. But how about the Steelers and their situation right now? A win, and they are in with some stuff on the side with a Buffalo loss and a Jacksonville loss, and they need some things to happen. What do you think of the Steelers right now?
Don't ask me. Whatever they're supposed to do, I feel they do the opposite. So, and I'm not even sure what they're supposed to do. Aren't they supposed to miraculously just back in with a loss and Buffalo losing and Jacksonville losing or something?
I think they're supposed to draft a really good quarterback for once is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. As I understand it, they have to win, and then they need Buffalo to lose or Jacksonville to lose.
Correct.
So it's possible they can win and not make the playoffs.
It's very possible.
But It's Saturday, so they're not worried about that. They're not going to get all of Baltimore's first string. But if you know the history, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you know that you could really throw that out the window. They're going to be challenging each other and pushing each other. And because of the way Baltimore is constructed, their second string is pretty deep because they've had good drafts. So I think you're going to see a pretty close game.
Yeah, I like what the Steelers have to play for, obviously against a team that has nothing to play for. But at the same time, do you really trust what Pittsburgh's coming up with the last several weeks? Even though they've won 2 straight, they have not been impressive.
I would disagree. They've been more than impressive. They've righted the offense. They've thrown the ball downfield more under Rudolph. Their defense has survived without some of their key parts, Micah Fitzpatrick. So I think they've been playing better. Minka.
Yeah, I think that they're obviously they've been playing well. Just when every time you leave them for dead, they play well. So you just can't predict.
Yeah, but they've been going down to the wire and pulling out games, though. And, again, a win is a win. I don't think they've been that impressive. I mean, Mason Rudolph is better than what they had, but he hasn't looked great at times. He's Mason Rudolph. So anyway, you get what you pay for there. The Ravens take a 6-game winning streak into a meaningless game. I have one more question about your thoughts on Isaiah Likely and how likely he is to be a star in the postseason, Ron. What did you think of him coming out of college?
It's interesting because we had one of the guys on our show when we talked about the relative athletic score, the guy who's now pretty famous and NFL teams use him. And Isaiah Likely was the outlier in his relative athletic score. I really liked him. He was my number 3, I think, tight end out of that class. And his score was considered borderline making the NFL. But we talked about it even on the show about a year and a half ago. He's out of Coastal Carolina. He was a stretch the seam target coming into the NFL, and he's still a stretch the seam target. Is he a great blocker? No, but he does all those other things. He's been valuable for this team because they lost Andrews. This team has another tight end in Charlie Kohler who can do some of the blocking, and it can, a typical Iowa State type tight end. They're all good in the NFL, but their teams don't produce offensively in college. But Isaiah Likely absolutely diversifies the offense.
And is there now a chance that Andrews will be back for the playoffs too?
I think he's opened his practice. Have they opened his practice window?
Not yet. I don't think that I've heard, but I think he's expected to be back.
Potentially, he could come back. I mean, what do you think of a 2 tight end set for them in the postseason?
As play on words, it is quote unquote likely.
So, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Another thing that's likely is rain and high winds for that game. And the total is down to 34.5 in some places. And frankly, if it is, they say it's going to be coming down at a 1/2 inch an hour. I thought.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So that total actually may end up being high at this point. This 34.5 might be a bargain by tomorrow morning.
All right. Heavy rain likely as well then. How interesting there.
Well, let me give a little bit of a tip out because week 18 is like no other week. You have to babysit what's going on with the lines all week. We've seen constant changes. You have to anticipate what players are playing or not. And on the day of the game, let's say Pittsburgh takes a 13-0 lead or something like that. You can anticipate that Pittsburgh will try to squeeze the air out of the ball and Baltimore just wants to go home in one piece. If depending on the situation, you're talking about bad weather, you're talking about a very low scoring second half, but it is dependent on what happens in the first half.
Right. All right. So are you guys have any specific plays on this one yet?
Under. I'm holding under 38.5. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to the CLV Hotel this week on all those unders that are caving because I've got 3 points on just about all of them. And you know what that means.
One thing Cris and I did differently this past week is that he really paid attention to the opening over-under lines and got some great value. I had no time to look at over-under lines, but I was dealing a lot with the spreads. So I have my value on the spreads. I had no early over-unders. It was just one of those things that it was too late for me. And so hats off to Cris for getting the value.
Has the Steelers moved off 3.5, or is that still where it is?
It's down to 3, but it bottomed out. It got down to a flat 3, and it's kind of getting a little play back up into a strong 3 territory. I couldn't stay away from Baltimore at 4. I just think that that's just ridiculous. I think that there's still going to be enough components on that roster to be competitive, and I don't think they like to necessarily continue losing to Pittsburgh as often as they have been.
Right.
Pittsburgh's a good number.
Just an issue, though, with how many guys they're sitting. I know OBJ is out. I think Zay Flowers was doubtful last night. I don't know where he stands now.
Yeah, and the OBJ thing was a real surprise because he has a lot of season incentives that he could have hit this game. So I don't know how that mapped out.
I think I
have a lot of incentives too. So if Lamar Jackson sits, That's 2 props that I'm going to win on the season because he's so close to beating me on both of them. And if Zay Flowers sits, then that's really good for me in another way because I have Jordan Addison and he's slightly behind after getting hurt. He's 4 yards behind Zay Flowers for the head-to-head.
It's not an if on Lamar. He's out. He's not playing.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Thing.
I have 12 props in progress, and if he's out, I have 10 in progress.
Now you're talking. Let's go to Indy. Houston Texans, of course. Raise your hand, guys. All of us had the Texans winning the AFC South at the beginning of the year. No doubt that was a lock, right?
Let's do this like the to tell the truth, where you fake stand up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then we all fall down on our faces out of the chair.
I think I was 9-4 on over-unders this year with 1 pending, and Houston was a loss for me. I had them under 6.5, so I cannot raise my hand on Houston.
And I guess that means you definitely say D'Amico Ryans is coach of the year because of your loss.
Well, it was a mistake that I made, addition by subtraction. I believe in that all the time. And Lovie Smith left, and whoever was going to take over was automatically going to be better. But there's no question what Houston has done is they've changed the way teams have to play against them. They stopped the run. I think they're one of the 3 to 5 best teams at stopping the run. And they force you to pass. And in this day and age, when every other quarterback shouldn't be in the NFL because of all the injuries and stuff, you've got some quarterbacks that can't take advantage of Houston's secondary.
Yeah. Well, we talked about always the stressing the offensive head coach in this league. But with Ryans, he has brought that toughness and what he did with San Francisco's defense. The combination of his coaching talent and their overall playing talent was phenomenal. And now the guys just love playing for him. And being a former Houston Texans player, he was going home. So this has just worked out perfectly so far for them. But what about you win the division with a W and a Jacksonville loss? Can they do it on the road at Indy, who's just really figured out a way to be pretty damn consistent?
I think they have enough in them to do it. I think last week, everybody thinks Carolina didn't show up, but maybe Houston got healthier. They got a few players back, and maybe they're getting healthy at the right time here. As you mentioned, they're going to have to be one-dimensional offensively for Indianapolis. So it's going to be on Minshew because Houston does so well against the run. But I'm just really interested in both of these teams. I'm kind of rooting for Houston. I think people in general are kind of rooting for Houston. I don't know what's going to go on with the scoring, though. It feels like that could end up being a shootout. So it actually will be an interesting game to watch tomorrow night.
Yeah, one of the things I'm looking for is how Houston deals with that Indy pass rush because they've been fantastic this year. So we'll see. And C.J. Stroud, it's like, okay, the rookie, been fantastic. He's now healthy again, which is great. The season on the line in the respect of trying to get the division. So that's going to be an interesting matchup.
So lots of happenings right now. Will Levis announced out. The Raiders say they're playing everybody. Kansas City says they're playing nobody. So we'll keep you posted as stuff comes by.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you think of the spread, Ron? What is it still about 1.5 right now?
It's still, as far as I could tell, 1.5. I think both Cris and I agree that Houston would be higher power rated. They're actually on neutral ground. Houston would be 3 points higher than Indy by my total. I've heard other people say about 2.5. So no surprise that Houston's the favorite, but it's funny because there's still a little surprise, I think, to the public that you have Houston on the road with the same record as Indy, and they would be favored. I think the odds makers know that they would get heavy Houston action if they set this line at Pick'em. I do think it'll be a shootout.
Well, I put a limit bet in at Circa, and they usually move stronger. I took Houston plus 1.5. And I thought for sure they'd move it down to pick 'em earlier this week, and they only moved it down to 1. So I think that they were kind of anticipating more Indianapolis action, because they'll usually move more than a half a point on a wager like that.
I want to address what Justin just said. He likes the under 47.5. And there's no guarantee that I would be on the right side. I actually like the over. The reason I like the over is because this is pretty much a do or die game. So if a team gets down, there's no tomorrow. And that's what happens in week 18. You see a lot of shootouts. You've got a dome situation. You've got a team, Indianapolis, that's going to have to put the ball in the air because of Houston's run defense. So you have more passes. If you have incompletions, it stops the clock. If you have 5 or 6 yard short passes, then it's just like a run. But my feeling is that there will be points scored. Maybe they feel each other out in the first half, because they're in this situation. Both teams are in a situation where they're not consistent playoff teams, certainly not Houston over the last few years. So maybe they're a little antsy. We saw that in some of the college semifinals, but I think the second half is going to be pretty interesting as far as points.
Yep. This is going to be one of those, to use a very old reference, let it all hang out game.
Well, and the Indianapolis Colts were kind enough to tweet out from their account that they will have the roof closed. So in case you were worried about that.
Yeah, right. Thanks for telling it.
Minshew over passing attempts has already been played by one of the 3 people in this podcast.
I'm looking down. I don't have a ticket.
Okay.
All right. So final thoughts on that game. Overall, from a spread standpoint, is there a super strong lean?
Well, I like Houston, but I think the only thing that I worry about with the total is if somehow Indianapolis gets that lead, they grind clock, and they do whatever they can to slow that game down. So that's the only thing that I can see slowing down the total. But otherwise, I would think it would be a great candidate for the over, and I still may end up on that over.
Yeah, it should be a fun game to watch.
It's another one that you babysit, see what happens, see if they come out tentative. Maybe there's no score in the first 5-6 minutes, and all of a sudden you're looking at a 45 total instead of a 47.5. They do algorithms a lot with these totals in game, and we'll see if I'm right about that. The pace ramps up later in the game.
All right, let's move on to Sunday. The latest is Baker Mayfield's playing, so that's good news for Tampa Bay with some rib issues. He might be taped up like a mummy, but whatever, he's going to play. So at Carolina, you got the Bucs are a 4 seed. They win the division with a win and a couple of other things. They just want to get in right now. Is this a potential blowout game here on the road?
You want to take it first?
You go ahead, Ron.
Tampa, Carolina?
Yeah.
I tweeted out, which is the one game that I'm not playing this week. This is it. Okay. No opinion whatsoever.
I lean toward Tampa Bay because Baker Mayfield makes more money in incentives by winning this game than he made in salary for the season. Number one, Carolina's kind of in that limbo range with that interim coach that they're not going to bring back, and they're kind of like just one of those seasons. I think Tampa is just a much, much better team, and I realize it's not a great situation for them. And the spread really makes it kind of rough because all they have to do is win. They don't have to win by margin, but I think that they're by far the better team here. They should win. But every week 18, we know that teams just are not supposed to show up or play major spoiler roles, and teams that you thought could handle the pressure or handle the situation and you expected them to take care of business, they just simply don't. And this is one of those games.
Yeah, well, and Carolina has a lot of guys who want to have a job next year, so they're going to be playing hard, right?
Yeah, and the I think Carolina's been trying all season long, but it's, if not the worst roster, it's one of the worst rosters in the NFL. And they've just blown draft picks. They're not going to have a number one next year. They traded a lot for Bryce Young. They're going to have to deal specifically in shoring up this team in free agency. But they'll try. But the question is, what do they have on the team? I think Tampa's going to try to run on them. They're going to try to run clock on them. But I don't have any interest in laying the points in Tampa.
I like the under in the game, though, too. I think that might have been a potential weather situation also. I think Tampa Bay's defense is pretty, underrated. It's not bad. And I don't know how Carolina is going to be able to put up a lot of points. Looking for the weather here. Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty windy, like 14, 15 mile an hour winds. That could affect the passing and keep I think both teams want to just get through the game anyway, but just another incentive not to be airing it out if it is windy.
Speaking of games that both teams want to get it over with, Cleveland at Cincinnati. I don't know. We don't need to spend much time on that game. Flacco sitting. Isn't that interesting? 6 weeks ago, if I would have said to you, hey, they're sitting Joe Flacco today. It's like, yeah, he's sitting on the couch. What the heck is that all about?
Yeah,
it's Flacco Friday. This is. I heard he's finally retiring. Did he announce that? So
I love the stat here. Jeff Driscoll is starting for Cleveland against his old team, Cincinnati. So he's got a little incentive there. But he's the fifth starter for a team going to the playoffs. That's never happened before.
Yeah. Ooh, they used to have T-shirts with Cleveland with all the names of the quarterbacks on Cleveland, and then they discontinued it because they ran out of space. Now they have to continue it for other reasons.
For just one season, they need a giant T-shirt.
One thing the NFL does really nicely is they put all divisional games week 18. So even if you're out of the playoffs, like Cincy, like other teams, you still want to beat your divisional rival. And there's no question which way this line was going to go. Cris and I talked about this on Tuesday. And Ted, I talked to you offline about how one of my tickets with 3 teams was denied, but I still have Cincinnati -3 in this game, and I stand fully behind Cincinnati winning. I've maneuvered with a couple of parlays with them as well. I strongly believe Cincinnati will win this game.
But are they going to win by more than 7?
I don't know if they're going to win by more than 7, but if I had to play it, I would still take Cincinnati.
Okay.
Interesting. And by the way, the Browns brought in guard Roger Saffold at this time of the year, which is interesting. He's an older guy, one of my all-time favorite interviews. I used to have him on every year on my pregame show. He's I guess a borderline Hall of Famer, but he's certainly could help at this stage of the year. A fresh body, you never know how that might work out, right, for the O-line.
And I just this Cleveland has done nothing but surprise all year long, and they've basically been a mash unit. So everybody, it's all hands on deck the entire season. They may be resting a lot of players, but it's not like they're putting inflatable dummies there instead. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. They played, and I think Cleveland will show a little bit more life than we anticipate. But this game is like many others this week where you can look really bad really fast. I mean, you can know you're out of the game by 30 minutes after the games have started. Maybe even less time than that. There's going to be a handful of games where you just know you're on the right side, or you might as well just rip that ticket up.
Yep.
Two final thoughts from me on this game. Number one, Cleveland knows that it's going on the road next week. They don't want anybody hurt. They've got some things to shore up there. And number two, one thing about their offensive line, I know Joe Flacco's done a wonderful job with touchdowns. Also, he's thrown 8 interceptions and so on. But one thing he does is avoid sacks because of his knowledge, because of his understanding of the quarterback position, unlike even Deshaun Watson and everybody who followed him. The offensive line is not allowed as many sacks, and it's because Joe Flacco understands when to get rid of the ball.
Yep, good points. All right, let's go to Detroit, where the Lions are just getting ready for their first playoff game at home in 30 years. Unbelievable, but true. Cris has been
It feels
waiting.
like yesterday.
Yeah, right. That's when Cris was 6 months old, of course. Let's talk about the Lions, and let's hear from their head coach, Dan Campbell, who says, the tough loss in Dallas is not only old news, but it was a great prep game for their entire persona going into the playoffs. Let's hear from Dan Campbell.
On the road, man, that's a playoff type atmosphere. And, and that's what's good. It's a playoff atmosphere, a really good team, playing at a high level. And so now you got a little taste of what that's like. And it's right there, we're right there. So we got a lot to build off of. They'll come in, we'll clean this tape up, make the corrections, which would be great for us. And we'll be good, man. We'll move on. We got Minnesota. We got one more before we start the tournament.
What were the 24 hours like after that? How long did it take you to put that away? I mean, we saw you frustrated. We saw the team frustrated. But how long did it take you to get past that? And, okay, now we move to the last.
I'm good. I woke up yesterday. I'm ready, man. I've got controlled fury, and I'm ready to go. I'm absolutely ready to go. I don't go the other way. So, and the team won't either. We're on a mission, and we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves and wallow in everything. We had plays to make, we didn't make them, and it's a tight game, a good opponent, playoff type atmosphere, and you got to make that one extra play that we didn't. And so we will use this as fuel. I got pure octane right now. I woke up, I'm ready. So we're moving forward.
Okay, so who wants to fight for him right now? Right? What do you think, Cris?
Well, there's two sides to that coin. It's a love-hate relationship because he's the type of the rah-rah guy that you really want to have, but he's also a little bit of a loose cannon. The idiocy of not kicking that extra point when they were penalized back to the 7 is unforgivable. I mean, it ranks as one of the dumbest coaching moves of the year in the entire league. And boy, that's a tough list to make.
That's a good point.
But I think they come to play. A lot of people took Minnesota thinking that Detroit's going to sit people, and sure, Detroit's going to sit people. But the people that they have to come in are as enthused as possibly can be. And there are a lot of Lions players that are within incentive range, and have goals. So they have offensive goals. They're going to put some points up. And that Minnesota offense has some problems.
Yeah. So for me, I think I was a bad influence on Cris, maybe a good influence on Cris, because I talk about what happens in week 18. And, I have quarter plays, I have half plays, I have third quarter plays, I have second half plays and stuff like that. And I think where you want to get to Detroit is especially the first and second quarter, because maybe they do sit people in the second half because they know they're playing next week and it's a big game and they don't want to get Goff hurt. They don't want to get St. Brown hurt. Maybe they want to get St. Brown a touchdown pass so we can get to 10. Maybe they want to do certain other things. But I think they're going to be pretty live in the first and second quarter. They're a better team than Minnesota. Minnesota 2 weeks ago, they played each other, and I would argue that Minnesota should have either won or covered that game, but you can't throw 4 interceptions and get away with it. Minnesota has a lot of doubts right now. I think they're still alive to make the playoffs. All they need is a whole bunch of stuff to happen. Yeah. They need Green Bay and Seattle to lose, and they need either Tampa Bay and New Orleans to lose. So they need 3 teams to lose.
Yeah, but they need to win whatever happens. So that's all that matters.
And I think they're going to be behind early. If they're not, either way, Detroit will probably rest people in the third and fourth quarters. But I think they want to get them some work, and I think they want to get the bad taste from last week out of their mouth.
Okay, so
yeah, in that first matchup between those two teams, that was a real soft spot for Detroit. Don't forget, they were coming off the big win. They won the divisional title.
Absolutely,
They didn't. They were by no means in a must-win situation with Minnesota, and even though they went in with the right attitude, they were not all there. So it made Minnesota look more competitive than the game should have been.
Right. So, okay. So I want to get one quick line from both of you. Where do you see how the Lions are at this stage of the year going to the postseason? Cris, it's your team.
You know what? I agree with what Campbell had to say. That dumb loss, the way they lost, is going to actually benefit them. They're not going to sulk and whine and piss and moan. They're going to use it as inspiration and motivation. And I think Campbell knows he screwed up that strategy end. And I think he'll be a little bit more conservative on that end. But this team's ready to go. I mean, it's ready to go. So,
Ron, what do you think?
I have playoff analysis, first wild card game playoff analysis going back 30 years. Detroit's in a beautiful spot. Detroit will come to play in the first game of the playoffs.
So they're motivated off of their last loss 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
They're motivated because they're a newcomer to the playoffs with a roster and pedigree that definitely has a win edge the first week in the playoffs.
They had a lot of Pro Bowlers announced, but St. Brown is pissed because he was left off, so he's going to have an even bigger chip on his shoulder. And the team's getting recognized. They have a lot of talent there, and they're the third youngest team in the league, so they can't. And they're worried. They may lose their OC. He's going to be the hottest commodity other than Harbaugh out there. For head coach positions, and this is the year they're going to really try to drive it through. They don't really have enough to make it all the way through. I don't think, unless San Francisco gets injured. But I'll bet you if they have to go into Dallas again, I'll bet you Dallas doesn't want to play him.
Well, by the way, there's a coach named Campbell who's in the background who's waiting to respond to both of you guys. Play number 2 there, Cris, please. Coach Campbell on where he thinks his team is right now.
I would say that we're trending where you feel like we should be trending. We were right there last year. We didn't do quite enough to get there, and so you just felt like the point is we got to be better than we were last year, and that was always the objective, was to be a better team, play better football, more competitive football than we did the year prior, and try to go win a division. And we've done both of those things. And so I feel like we've improved. And I would say that we're trending.
They've improved. Coach, yep. You talk too much, Coach. But bottom line with Detroit, I think they feel pretty good about themselves right now. And that's important at this stage of the year, obviously. Let's go to New Orleans. Atlanta and the Saints. The Falcons, just an awful road team this year. And you never know which team's going to show up at all. And the Saints, is Kamara playing or not?
I think he's trending more toward not playing.
That's what I heard, but I don't know the exact latest as of the last hour or two, so I don't know if there was any announcement on him. Winning you're in kind of a situation there, right? With a couple of other scenarios involved for the Saints. This is a weird game. I mean, what's the spread now? Is it still about 3 or 3.5? New Orleans?
It's 3.
Oh, it's 3. Okay, it's where it should be, right?
Well,
more than. Did you get in early, Ron? Did you get 3.5 on that?
I got 4.
You got 4. Okay. If it's
That's
over 3, you're
that's
taking
where it's sat for a couple of. Now, Cris and I have disagreements on this particular game. I will say this about Kamara. The fact that he's not playing shouldn't be taken as a negative. I think the line will go down when they hear that big name, but every time they throw the ball to him, the defense wins because he's not averaging anything on yards per reception.
Right, exactly.
He's not breaking big long gains. He's had a very average season, and I'd rather if I'm taking Atlanta, I'd rather have Kamara in the game. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I think they played the first game without him too, but Taysom Hill ran for like 87 yards that game, but he hasn't been seen lately, so they need to get him back involved.
That's a coaching issue, and we know that we do not have the best two coaches in the league in this game. And
No,
I would prefer Taysom Hill take the week off and go to Las Vegas and see a show or something like that. I mean, I don't want, as somebody who likes Atlanta for a variety of reasons in this game, I would rather Taysom Hill be in street clothes.
Sure.
Well, there's a rumor that at halftime that both teams will make a trade, and they're going to trade for each other's coach to see if that helps.
That won't help.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, let's get off that game. Jacksonville at Tennessee. Looks like Lawrence is going to play with his shoulder injury. Limited in practice yesterday, but they think he's going to be able to go. Win the division with a W here. What do you think, guys, on the road, Jacksonville?
I think that there's value on Jacksonville here, even though they've kind of stunk up the joint. I think they got healthy last week, and I worry. I think Trevor Lawrence is legitimately injured. I think that he'll try to play, but I don't know what we can expect out of him. But he's got some support. Kirk has an outside shot of showing up, I guess, but they're saying he's kind of looking gimpy out there and won't be up to speed. So I'm not sure you really want that in the mix, so to speak.
I'm wondering how much do you feature Derrick Henry in his last game as a Titan at home? His 30th birthday was yesterday, so he's on the other side of the mountain. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I think, again, it depends on score and how the flow of the game goes, whether Henry gets 25 carries or 7 carries. I mean, Tennessee has nothing to play for. We know that. I think they've done a far below average job in coaching. I don't think he gets enough discredit for what's going on with how he's running that particular team. By the same token, Jacksonville's not a complete team either. They have flaws. That's why they're in this situation where they're fighting to get to the playoffs.
Right.
I think what I did is I kind of misjudged the line a little bit. I thought it was trending up. It was going 5.5. Cris, I don't know if it touched 6 or not in the game, but now it's back down, I think, to 3.5. Did it ever touch 6?
I don't think so.
3.5. Really? It came all the way down to that?
Yeah, and I think Tennessee does. If you're going to take Tennessee, and there are reasons to take them, I think you're getting cheated at 3.5 points.
Wow, that's brutal. Forgotten stat this year. The Titans are 0-5 in the division. How bad is that in that division? I mean, I don't get it. That shows you that Vrabel is really underperformed big time this year.
I never understood Tennessee the entire season. I don't understand what's going on with Henry. All I know is that he's gone, and he basically didn't do much this year. I don't even understand why he did underperform the entire year. I mean, are they happy to see him go? Are they going to really be happy to wish him goodbye? I mean, what is the?
I think part of the equation is his age and where he stands at this stage of his career. So now, I mean, you don't want to wear him out because he's a ground and pound guy, and how much more can you do of that? And their offense, they're falling behind all the time, so you're not going to need him anyway. So there's a combination of a lot of things there.
Henry got better as the game went on because he's that kind of guy who inflicts pain on the guy trying to tackle him. But in general, it's not a running back world. We know that with the contracts. We know you can have tandem running backs. You can spend your money elsewhere. Henry, is not going to be satisfied with an under $10 million a year salary. And, the going rate for running backs is under $10 million. But the play calling is to blame too, because like Cris said, sometimes they used them and sometimes they didn't.
Yep. And they don't have a whole lot else to use on that offense anyway. So go figure. Let's get off that game and go to the snow in Foxborough. Finally, we're going to have a big-time winter storm game. You got to love that to wrap up the season in a totally meaningless game. I don't want to spend more than 30 seconds on this if we don't have to. But the Bill Belichick story is going to continue until early next week, and we'll see if he's still there or not. The Patriots are 1-7 at home. Just a disappointing year for both teams. Is that all we want to talk about? Are we off that game already?
Cris did a good job with the total.
Got it early?
The Patriots? Yeah, I'm holding under 34. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm hoping it goes down to like 28.
Oh, boy, that would be nice.
But we'll have to see.
One of the great middles of all time there, huh?
Yeah, I think we're looking at 11-9, 2 safeties and a touchdown and whatever else goes on with the nines. So it's not much of a game. New England's won 14 in a row at home against the Jets. The Jets are they certainly want to erase that, but they wanted to erase, they wanted to beat New England earlier. Can't get it done. So they just can't get it done. I don't know. I would probably lean if the line went to 3, but I'd hate it.
Right. By the way, Belichick's been sick all week, so I'm sure he's going to feel real good standing there in the snow on Sunday.
Great.
Good luck with that, Coach. And we'll see if he's still the coach or if he's just the coach and not the GM next week, and who knows what's going to happen there.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, well, you never know. Again, if he's not flexible, he's gone. Let's put it that way. That's the way I see it. They've got to make changes, and if he's not allowing those changes to happen, he's out of there. Seattle and Arizona. What are your thoughts on that one? The Seahawks need to win, but they need to play better too. Their defense has just been pretty brutal overall for the second half of this season.
Yeah, Seattle has played well at Arizona. So you have to factor that in a little bit. But Arizona is a different team offensively with Kyler Murray. And I've talked about this on previous Fridays and on Tuesdays. Seattle has a lot of young talent, but it's going to be up and down because they're learning all together. Back-to-back great drafts, but there are holes in the secondary when they're not assignment sound. They're getting beaten as far as the run game. And we know running back Connor is going to be a big factor in this game. I mean, Arizona is going to try to have him run early and often. He has some incentives, he has some milestones, and he has a good matchup. I see this as a high-scoring game, believe it or not. And I also think that Seattle, because they're comfortable there, probably a better than 50% chance to win. But I think this is a situation, Cris can comment on this, where you're paying a premium for a team that needs to win the game to make the playoffs. Yeah. Because Seattle really shouldn't be a 3 or even a 2.5 point favorite. This really should be closer to pick 'em.
Yeah, this is a bad value game in that respect.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it the exact same way, though, but, everybody else seems to think that Seattle's paying a premium.
So you don't see that. You see them further apart in power ratings.
I feel like the line is exactly where it should be, even if it was a regular season game. But so I don't think it's. But I'm a little bit off from everybody. I realize everybody else thinks that the line is bloated. I think the line's fair.
Okay, well, I'll look at Arizona too as being a brutal home team. There's no home field advantage. They're 2-5. They stink at home. So
and Seattle does well there.
Right. So you put that together, and that is a part of that line difference, right?
Yeah, and it bothers me because when I will not go against any team that has power rating advantage and that they're an underdog because it's a losing proposition. I always win with power rating dogs, so why would I go against them? But I like Seattle in the spot, but I don't love Seattle in this spot.
Right. Well, Seattle has to win, and they need Green Bay to lose or tie. and some other tie scenarios. The bottom line, the Seahawks are just going to go in and try and steal the 7th seed, because that's all they're playing for. There's nothing else left for their season, and we wish them well. Real quick, Kyler Murray, future guys, any thoughts on that, or you want to talk about that maybe next week?
I saw where would you rate Kyler Murray in the league?
In flux. Seriously.
It's such a hard sample size because he doesn't have the body to last 17 games in the NFL. But this is really off the top of my head, I would say 12 to 15.
Yeah, I heard somebody rating him like 10, and I'm like,
No.
10? How the hell can he be 10?
No way.
It just seemed laughable to me.
Yeah, we have a drop-off after about 16 or 17 in the NFL right now that needs to be fixed.
Well, it's because the rest of them are starting and should be working at 7-Eleven. So, I mean, what do you want? Right? That's the bottom line. All right, let's go. Bears and Packers at Lambeau. The Pack a win, and they're in the postseason. Several tie scenarios there. Right now, they are the 7th seed in the NFC, and this is one of those games. The Bears have a lot to play for because they just want to win. They want to beat the Packers. It doesn't matter if it's in a parking lot. So there's incentive there, but they stink on the road too. They're 2-6. So what do you think, guys?
I'll go brief because I want to hear Chris's comments, because I really am torn on this game a little bit. Certainly Chicago wants to win, and they're playing really good ball. And if you look at, as Cris would probably comment, what they've done in the last 5 weeks, they've really improved in a number of different areas. And Jordan Love, for his credit, is very close to winning the passing TD crown in the NFL.
Unbelievable.
So it's an interesting game. It's a must-win again for Green Bay, so we're dealing with that situation. What do you think, Cris?
I think the only thing I worry about is that everybody likes the Bears, and that kind of bugs me. They've been, I guess, I was listening to the herd. They mentioned that they have the number 1 defense since week 12 or something. Maybe that's scoring defense. I'm not sure whether that was full defense or what, but they're certainly the number 1 team over the last 5 weeks on my charts overall as an entire team. So I think that they would love nothing more than to prove that they are no longer owned by Green Bay.
Yeah.
And that gives them incentive. And the Bears defense is going to be able to put some pressure on Love, and it's going to make Love look a little bit more average, so to speak. And the Green Bay defense can make other quarterbacks look better than they are. So I kind of like the over in this game, probably, but it's going to be interesting. I've got the Bears.
If we look at the starting quarterbacks for the Packers over the last 30 years, all 2 of them before this one, and Jordan Love, they gets into the playoffs, will be the first year Packers starting quarterback to make the playoffs. So that's an interesting stat there.
Mm-hmm. So in the first 12 games, the Bears were last in the league with 17 defensive sacks. But we know what they did at the trading deadline. They got Josh Sweat into the equation. And in the last 4 games, last 3 or 4 games, they have ramped it up with 12 sacks. So that's what Cris is saying, that now they feel pretty comfortable and confident in their pass rush, which will give Jordan Love something extra to think about.
Right. And Love is 16-1 TDs to picks since week 11. So we all basically said he was ready for the scrap heap after the first few games this year. And now he's starting to look like he will be there for a long time. So who the hell knows? But
okay, quiz question, Ted.
Yes.
How many defensive interceptions do the Chicago Bears have?
Oh, gee, I do not know.
Just pull a number out. Average is around 12.5 right now, 13.
How about 2?
24.
Come on. Are you serious?
I may be off by 1 or something, but they're leading the league easily.
I had no idea. No idea. I haven't seen that stat all year. That is impressive stuff. Yeah. Well, if he can get away without an interception game here with the Bears trying and saying, Jordan Love, you don't owe us like Aaron did, we'll see.
I just think it's something that people don't realize what's going on in the Bears secondary.
Right. Do we need to go over the Chiefs Chargers, guys, the meaningless games? Everybody's sitting and nobody cares?
No, the Raiders are playing everybody, and Kansas City's playing nobody.
Chargers,
so obviously Kansas City wins for fun.
Chargers, not Raiders. Yeah. So anyway, forget that game. Chargers with their great home field advantage as a 3.5-point favorite against anybody who's wearing the Chiefs jerseys. Good luck in that game. I don't. Is there even an under thought in that game?
Yeah, I played the under.
You did, okay.
Yep.
No, I don't know.
My
thinking would be
how are they going to score?
Yeah.
You only look dog in that kind of situation. The Chargers haven't warranted 3.5-point favorites with Easton Stick.
Exactly. And Denver and Vegas, same situation, meaningless game, except for the Raiders are playing everybody, and they're playing for their coach. So is that line moving at all? What last I saw was yesterday was it 2.5 Raiders?
It's 3.5.
3.5. Well, it should be.
Oh no, the Raiders are 3 now.
Well, it should have gone to at least 3, and it did. So that's interesting. I mean, again, bottom line is the Raiders are playing hard for Pierce.
By power ratings, the Raiders should not even sniff 3. Denver is higher power rated, but we all know that the Raiders are fundamentally a sounder team under Pierce than they are right now. I think the one issue with Denver that they are trying is because they want to prove they can win without Russell Wilson.
Yep.
So I think from that standpoint, you'll get Sean Payton's best effort. But I think Vegas has a chance to blow them out. We'll see how it starts out early.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm stuck on the. I'm going to look like a hero or a chump real fast because I'm playing Denver here for the reasons you said, Ron. They're the better team, and give me a full field goal, I'll take my chances. But we know that the Raiders, want to play for their coach, but I'm thinking the same thing you are, Ron. Denver has a mission on their own, so and those teams don't like each other. I don't think Denver's going to just hand it over to them. Yep. I do worry that Vegas is not sitting anybody and does seem intent on winning and trying hard, but right. Telegraphing that gives that message to Denver ahead of time on what to be prepared for also. So hopefully this is one of those goofy results where it looks like the Raiders are the pick, but they aren't. Okay,
well, Vegas is the leading scoring D in the league since Pierce took over in Week 9. That's amazing.
Yeah. Pierce, DeMeco Ryans, they have that same kind of mentality, and they get the players to play, especially in the French 7. Those guys are really going to be assets with their knowledge of the game.
Yep. Okay, I got 9 minutes, guys. And I got to hustle out of here. So let's go. Eagles, Giants, bad weather. What do you think?
First quarter, Philly. First half, Philly. Under. Took the under 45.5. I think that's still good. That's all I got.
Yeah, for me, I would say that Philly has played to the level. I mean, we all expected Philly to get well. Well, they never got well. And like I said on Tuesday, you have to dismiss what happened last year sometime. It's too late to dismiss it in week 16 or 17. To quote some coaches, they are who we thought we are, or whatever that quote is. And Philly's playing down to the level. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants stole this game.
Yeah. Philadelphia, disappointing pass rush this year, big time. That has just fallen off a cliff. Rams at 49ers, another meaningless game. Sam Darnold against Carson Wentz. Does that excite you guys?
I'm very excited.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting because they're going to be feeding the ball to Puka early. Puka's the only one that's playing just so that he can reach 5 receptions and a certain amount of yards.
Yeah, he might play like 5 minutes. He'd get that done and then get him out of there too.
But they said this stuff, McVay or what's his name from San Francisco said, Shannon said there was going to be a vanilla type offense. These teams probably see each other again, possibly. So they don't need to show each other anything. I think they just want to get in, get out. I played the under 43, and I'm banking on points being tough to come by with so many starters sitting on offenses.
Yep, got it.
Yeah, I think the fourth quarter is going to resemble August football. Everybody runs into the line. Nobody gets hurt. We're all going to the playoffs. And like Cris said, we may see each other again. We're showing nothing. August football typically has over-unders of 35,
right.
36. This is August football in the second half.
Okay, and Dallas and Washington, boys, just the 2 seed right now, win the division with a W and a Philly loss, and they're just a typical, a giant double-digit favorite on the road in this game where they should be. Sam Howell's going to be back at start under center again, so we'll see what happens there, huh?
Well, last year you had the same matchup, and Dallas was an 8.5 point favorite and just missed covering the spread by 32. So Dallas no-showed the last game of last season, but I anticipate I'm on the under on this one at I think 48.5. The weather's is improving a little bit, but it's still supposed to be awfully windy.
So I'm not crazy that Sam Howell is starting for Washington because he's so turnover prone. This is a babysit game where you go in there, and if you see Washington is just phoning it in early, it's going to get ugly because Dallas now can win the division. There's a huge difference for Dallas, especially hosting a playoff game versus going on the road in the playoff game. If Washington shows signs of, same old Washington early, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, it certainly could. They've lost 7 in a row going into this game, and it's the end of the Ron Rivera era too. So it's not like they're playing hard. They're 1-6 at home, the Commanders. So it's just been an awful, awful year.
Yeah, if I had one time machine regret, it's that as soon as the trading deadline ended and they got rid of their 2 stars on the defensive line, it just should have been an automatic fade week after week. Now, I did it once or twice, but to be honest, it should have been, that was quit. That was QUIT right there.
Well, they came out so strong after that trade, though. So you thought that it was some.
I know it played with my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I got 3 minutes to go. Buffalo at Miami. Here's our big game. Division title on the line. What do you think? I mean, this has got the makings of a good one. We got some injuries for the Dolphins, though, which doesn't help their situation, and certainly their D against a red-hot Buffalo offense, which has changed a lot since they changed the OC. What do you think?
I think potentially Buffalo's got some injury concerns that are kind of like being swept under the rug. I don't think Allen's fully healthy. There's Diggs isn't fully healthy. There's other players that are not healthy. It's on both sides of the ball, and people have been over pumping Buff. I think this is a really strange game because people are over pumping up Buffalo, but by the same token, Miami has is a dog with fleas there too. So it's going to be really interesting because Miami really no shows against in these types of situations other than that game against Dallas.
Yeah. What do you think,
For me, I think there's value on Miami, but there's 3 players that it really hurts. If you like Miami, you got to worry about 3 players. Chubb is out of the game because of that fourth quarter blowout injury that he should never have been in. Does Allen the last 3 weeks has not got into harm's way. They've used Cook. If they continue to do that, that'll be interesting. But my biggest thing is, and I said this on Tuesday, Waddle, the receiver for Miami, there's such a big difference between Waddle as the number 2 receiver and whatever else Miami has as the number 3 moving up to the number 2. It means that Tyreek Hill, who hasn't had the best games against Buffalo, sees extra coverage. I like Miami with Waddle in the game, but with Waddle out of the game, I'm worried.
And my concern is the Miami defense, the way it is now, without their 2 edge rushers against Buffalo. That changes everything. It's just not going to be a pressure game on Allen like it could have been from the previous time, or certainly with the damn season on the line here.
Yeah. Interesting game for sure. There's a lot of dynamics, game time decisions from the betting standpoint and from the player personnel standpoint.
So what have you guys done on this game?
But Miami's got the extra points they're getting here. But boy, you bet it and you just feel like you could end up looking like an idiot halfway through the first quarter.
Right.
Yeah, a soft bet for me, a very soft bet on Miami, because I don't want to be holding a lot of Miami money if Waddle's not in.
Right.
I'm in the same, but I'm on the under also though. I think that's going to be a tough number to top. I don't think it'll hit the 50s.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Any other final thoughts on the week, boys?
Go get your dental work done. We're sick and tired looking at those chompers. Get them fixed.
Yeah, next Friday I'm going to come back and they're all going to be gone. So I'm going to every tooth will be out of there. Anyway, let's have some fun, guys. We'll do it again. We'll start the playoffs next Friday. This is going to be great. Thanks.
Yeah, everybody enjoy the week. Don't get too carried away. Weird things happen on week 18. We saw Jacksonville as a 17-point favorite a couple of years ago, got very lucky to win the game. They were even at home in that game. Don't be surprised if 1 or 2 of these results are completely different than what you would have expected.
Yep. And Ron's going to have calluses on his fingers from the in-game plays, right? Trying to
week
get
18 is crazy. I have more plays than Cris. That tells you everything you need to know.
A little hard though to follow this thing right now from an in-game standpoint, because you got to follow every game where you want it to, the trending with in-game stuff right now.
You got to do what you can, whatever works. You just deal with it, and if you miss, you miss. You move on.
All right. Well, I'm going to be the last one to say Happy New Year this season, and have a great week, guys. And Cris, go Lions!
Go Lions! That's good. All right, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.